Surprise, surprise, my dogs. It's been a while. It's been a while, Joe. I hardly remember you, but the dogs are back. And we need to come up with a plan for the future because it feels like we are growing apart, mate. We're growing apart.
Yeah, I know. It's been hard to get this one set up. I mean, we tried a few times, didn't we? But sometimes you were free, and sometimes I was free, and the other one was busy. But we're back, and yeah, and it's good to be back. It feels like ages since we last did one.
Did you miss me?
Yeah.
Did you?
I've missed doing it. Yeah, I've missed doing it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I missed a couple of laughs. So how was the week then? I could say 2 weeks. Have you got any highs and lows? If you haven't got any highs and lows because you've been traveling out to Arizona and everything, then I'm going to eat my
Yeah,
shoes.
surprisingly, I haven't really got any lows from the actual trip out here. It actually all went really smooth, and like I actually felt pretty good. So that wasn't really. I thought I'd have more stories from that, but that was actually fine. I did have a low from Tuesday on race week. I went to do a last little brick session, and went to pick the pace up on a hill, and I felt, that where you feel terrible, you just feel like you could hit the powers, but you just don't feel like you got much in the tank. Do you know what I mean? Them days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Felt like that, and I was like, "This is pointless. Like, I'm not gonna bother like digging myself a hole like I'm doing an Ironman in 5 days." And the annoying thing was, I was actually filming a YouTube video with Tyler for like the last session before the race, and
You're proper
had to
proper
like
influencer.
yeah, and then had to fucking bail on the bike, mate. I was like, mate, I'm just gonna end up cruising it in. Like, I ain't got it today, and I'm just gonna end up like digging too deep on a day. On race week. So I was like, unfortunately, we're gonna have to sack it off. And he said, "Oh, suppose it's not going to go on YouTube then, is it? If you're not going to do it?" I said, "Fuck it, put it up, mate. We don't hide the highs and lows here. We'd like to show it all." So
Yeah, it is. It is.
put it in. Yeah, but that was a bit of a low. But I mean, on the grand scheme of things, it's been all right. Highs wise, my training actually has been going really well. Like in general, like I've actually been hitting some good sessions. So I'd say that's like a decent high. Going into the last race. I can't think of any specific stories off the top of my head though. What about you? Have you got any?
But it's good that you are putting it on YouTube because it shows you also the human side of Skipper, doesn't it? I mean, I know you've got a lot of days where you feel shit and then you just cruise in, but if you've also got a lot of days where you like push it hard. But people always think that you always feel good when you're a professional, don't they? So and also it's race week, so it's better to back off a bit than over push it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a proper low, mate. Got a proper low.
What's your proper low?
So, are you, by the way, in an airfield or something? I can hear the planes coming and going.
I know, mate. I know. They literally have just started to like come more and more frequently since we've been doing this. I must be over a flight path or something. Because
how do you manage to always fuck this up? It's either the dog, so he flew all his way to Arizona and he could record a podcast anywhere. He decides to sit in the middle of a flight path on a balcony on his hotel room. Can you take us in your mindset? Take us away, Joe.
My parents are inside. We're all sharing an apartment, me and my parents, and they're listening to Radio 2, mate, checking on Jeremy Hunt's autumn budget. They want to know where their finances are going, don't they? They've got the tunes playing. UK is going into recession.
Can't you like tell?
They've got some real lows.
Can't you just tell them like, listen up, Daddy's got to work. Could you please go for a romantic walk here around the airfield?
Well, my dad's building my bike up in there, mate. My dad's building my bike. I can't get him to take a walk. He's got jobs to do, mate. He's got to sort stuff out.
All right, fair enough. All right, I've got a proper story. A mate of mine turned 30 last week. And he hosted like a party.
It's all downhill from there. It's all downhill from 30, mate.
It's all downhill.
Experience.
So I went to his little party. I trained that day, like I did a longer ride and run. Had like a quick meal in the evening. I went to like a fancy pasta place, but they had these really small pasta plates. So I think it was like 12 at that party, and I was already starting to feel hungry, like mega hungry. And then at some point, I said to a mate of mine, like, "Oh, when we're walking home, I'm going to order some food because I'm absolutely starving." I was sleeping at his place, and he said, like, oh yeah, let's do that. Let's order something when we're about to head home. So I was really fantasizing about that food, getting the mood in. So then we were walking home. I was looking on the internet for food. So I found a place and it said 20-minute delivery time. And he said, you sure you still want to order that? I said, yeah, mate. He said, well, what if it doesn't come until like an hour or so? I said, it says 20 minutes. It says 20 minutes. So I ordered. We walked home. The walk was about like 20 minutes. Came home. It was, I think 2:30 back then. When do you reckon the food came in, mate?
Shit, you weren't waiting like an hour, were you? Like 3:30 or something?
4:15. 4:15, mate.
Oh my God, I'd be so pissed off if that was me.
I was so pissed because I called the guy after like 45 minutes. I said, what the hell's going on? Do you still like, but he said like, oh, that's coming. It's coming. It's almost there. So you're thinking like, could be the next 5 minutes, mate. It was almost 4:30. I was over my appetite, literally had like 2-3 bites and I went to sleep. I was so damn tired, but I thought like, cause I was sleeping at his place and he had to get up at 8 a.m. for work and his sister had to get up at really early in the morning. So I thought if I go to sleep, that delivery guy is going to ring that doorbell like a mofo, So I need to stay awake.
But yeah,
So I had to stay awake.
Similar thing happened to me with a kebab person, and we nearly ended up getting in a punch up outside the house where we used to live.
With a kebab person?
Like I was on the way, I was on the way back from I don't know, something like with Laura. It was something triathlon specific related, and we're starving. And I was like, oh, we'll order a kebab for tea. So we ordered it when we were about like 20 minutes away, similar to you, thinking, or 20, 30 minutes, thinking, oh, I'll get home soon after and it will save loads of time. We'll have that and it'll all be good. So we ordered it, got home, nothing, rang him up and was like, how long are you going to be? He's like, he's on his way. Bearing in mind, this place is like 5-6 minute drive away. So you're thinking, all right, he's going to be within like 10 minutes. Then 15 minutes goes, ring him up again. Yeah, he's on his way. Kept going on for absolutely ages. At this point, you're fuming, thinking like, God, I would have just cooked my tea, because it ended up taking like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And like eventually it came probably after a good 2 hours, so he'd been at home waiting an hour and a half and we were hungry anyway when we ordered it. So you're thinking like, God, if I'd known this, I would have never have got it. And I said to him, I said, it was pointless now, isn't it? I said like, the kebab wasn't even warm when he came as well. Or no, it was warm. But when he came, I said, why did it take so long, and stuff like this. I said, we were bringing up for ages. And then he tried to take it away and said, well, don't have it then. And tried to walk off. Bearing in mind, you've already paid for it. And I was like, no, we're having it. So I took it and he ended up giving me some abuse or something. I can't remember how it escalated. But what I do remember was him taking his like belt off outside the house and he was trying to whip me with his belt. And then he ended up like, I think he kicked me in the ass, something like that. And then he got in his car. I shut the door. Might have got his leg when I shut the door. Not. And then and then he drove off. When the neighbours were like outside, like we hadn't even been living there that long, and they must have been thinking, "What the fuck is going on here?" Like they're like in. These new people have moved in. There's a kebab shop trying to whip the guy with a belt.
He's got this. He's got this annoying pool.
No, this was at the old house. This is going back this must be like 2015. This is probably 6-7 years ago. I can still remember the name of it, Delicatessen or something. And on Google, the kebab shop's got under a 2 out of 5 rating. That just says it all, doesn't it? God knows what they actually put in the kebabs as well.
It does. But it makes me wonder every week, Joe. Is the kebab delivery guy? It's Cameron Worth. It's the dog groomer. What's going on, mate? You've got this energy around you. What is it? I was at a dog groomer last week. I went out for a run. I was at a dog groomer. Remember? I sent you his picture.
No, you weren't at the dog groomer. You Googled it or something.
No,
but the dog groomer that cuts the hair, Ted. What, you were actually at a dog groomer's?
I was actually at a dog groomer, yeah. It was not my dog.
But
it
Ted,
was his
amazing.
dog as well.
All right, they haven't got a problem with the dog groomer. The dog groomer done it. It was Ted getting his pearly whites done. He was getting the plaque off his teeth. That he was going to see basically the dentist, or something, And that was she was the one that caused the problems. The dog groomer was actually all right. I picked them up from there the other day.
I've got another. I've got a high, mate. I've got a high since 8 weeks. Since 8 weeks, or maybe even more. I don't know. I'll quickly grab up my Strava, like we always do with the Terminator. Been back into training. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 to 8 weeks. That I did like 12 to 20k running a week. That 1 week where I did 7Ks of running. I did like
Wow,
100.
you're on the
200.
Norwegian plan.
This is
7Ks of running a week, mate. You're going to be fit as.
seven weeks of cycling. I did 4 swims in 7 weeks. Yeah, and you might be wondering, like, why would you do
That's
that,
too
Joe?
much.
I know,
Why would you swim
that's too
so
much.
much? Like, why would you do
Why would
4
you swim so
swims?
much? Well, we're laughing about it right now, but that was also the reason why I didn't came out to Hawaii and all that, because I had like some private issues. I had to move, and then I was very busy with the company, like work overload, just shitload of stress, not feeling too well. Then where I moved to was literally over where none of my friends were, and I thought it was actually all right because so I was. The thing is, Joe, if I had to stay in The Hague or if I wanted to move to Amsterdam, I need to pay like between 1,500 and 2K a month, like rent. It's like shitloads. But I actually want to buy a house in a year from now because I don't think it's the right time now with the recession coming up and with the interest rates rising. So I think if I wait just a little bit more, the prices will come down. But anyway, I thought I'll stay over at my brother's. He's got like an apartment that I could move into. Ended up getting very, very, very fucking lonely because I don't know. I just didn't know anyone. I'm really bad at being alone, like really, really bad. I had my good mates, so I thought that never sent me any message, Joe, never. So I just didn't do any training. I just felt flipping. Do you know who sent me a message every day, Joe? Do you know who that was?
Hey.
Who I spoke to every day? Thomas Dekker.
Really?
Thomas Dekker, yeah. He's an honest guy. Anyway, just it took me to a point that you think like you got to grab life by the balls again and got to get going. So I started training again last week. 5-minute K pace. My heart rate was like 145, 150. But I did one tempo threshold run last Monday. I was kind of surprised by that. It was like 5K, 340 per K. And I remember you saying, just give it a crack. And I said, I probably won't be able to do it, but surprisingly a bit faster than I thought. But I would say it's a high getting back into it. But there's it always looks bright on Instagram, doesn't it? Life always looks bright on Instagram. But everyone always has got their shit, Joe.
So you've been battling some demons.
I've been battling some demons, yeah. Yeah, such is life. I mean, I've never had it before. Like, you know, I'm always happy. I'm always laughing. I'm always up for jokes. And I've never had a period in my whole life that you wake up and actually feel like flipping unhappy or whatever, you know. It's I can't even explain. But anyway, back in the game. And training. So in about 2 weeks, or what is it? Yeah, 2.5 weeks. Going to South Africa with Thomas. Do you know what else is a stressful period? I've been speaking to some other people about it. Now the end of the year is coming. Well, you've got a manager, but like sponsorships, income. You know, it's also part of being a professional athlete is the stress of financial insecurity, right? I don't know if you've still got that or not.
I think sponsorships are absolutely horrific. I was actually talking to a guy last night here, and we were talking about sponsorships. He was talking about sponsorships actually in CrossFit, and he said that he met up with the male and female champion from CrossFit, and they're on good money. But he said most of the people in CrossFit are on terrible money as well. I thought they were on good money, and he said no. And he was telling me about what some of them said. And also, I was talking to a triathlete the other day, and he'd won a regional championship Ironman. And he said that he hasn't even got a cash sponsor and can't even get a bike to someone to give him. And he won a regional championship within the last 12 months. I thought that was absolutely crazy, you know, that someone could win a regional championship Ironman, step owner, and not even have one cash sponsor. I think part of the reason I was saying it, this is my part of my theory is behind it. I think there's a lot of youngsters that are coming up in the sport, who are doing pretty well. Like they're like
Mm-hmm.
under 25, 21, 22, 23. They're living at home with their parents, so not really paying that much. Then they start getting they've not had any money really, but they're pretty decent. Then they get a couple of
Yeah.
good results and they can do some of the PTO races. They can get some thousands of pounds. And then some sponsors are like, this guy's good. He's really young. We want to sponsor him. So then they say, yeah, we'll be interested in sponsoring you. And the guy says, yeah. And they're like, he doesn't really know how much to ask for. So he'll say something like, yeah, they'll offer him $5,000 or something. He'll be like, fucking hell, $5,000, that's pretty decent. They might have a few bonuses in it as well. And he might pick up 4 or 5 sponsors like that. So he's getting, say, 25K, plus he's getting bonuses on top, then some money from the PTO races. Before he knows it, he's getting 70, 80K a year, which, like, when you're living at home with your parents, he's like thinking like he's absolutely rolling in it. But then the guys that were getting, say, 20K or more than that a year are struggling because the sponsors are like, well, we're not going to pay you 20K when so-and-so is going to take 5K. And the reason is these guys that are taking 5K could probably take a hell of a lot more, but they don't know what to ask for. And for them, 5K is probably a decent amount because they've not had any cash sponsors before. Living at home with their parents, the income's really low. They've got like hardly any outgoings. So for them, they feel like they've made it. And I think part of that is driving the price down for everyone, because then once people start saying $5,000, then it's almost like, does the person that wanted 20 or who was on 20 then say 4K? You can't make a living off like 4K, and then everyone drives the price down. Whereas really, if there was a bit more transparency and people really knew how much to ask for, it would actually keep the price a lot higher. But once people start asking for a lot lower, then everyone suffers and the price goes down. And I think sponsors have actually got, like, it's actually harder now than what it was like 6-7 years ago. And I remember people telling me 6-7 years ago, the sponsors are terrible from what they were 10 years ago. So I think if you looked at it over the last 20 years, the prices of what people are actually probably getting, athletes and stuff, has probably gone down like 5-6 times less per sponsor than what they were back then.
Do you know what? I'm sometimes surprised by certain things, because I hear sponsor amounts from people outside of triathlon that are, for example, into gravel racing or something else. And so if I hear what contracts they're on, and if I hear what some top professionals, talking like absolutely top professionals in triathlon, are on, it's absolutely crazy. Like, I'd say sometimes maybe 4 times your contract, 4 or 5 times. I'm thinking like, wow, that is completely nuts. So I do think that triathletes are well underpaid, but in the end, the money needs to come from somewhere. And if they don't have the budgets, they don't have the budgets. But that doesn't take away the fact that it gives a lot of stress, financial insecurity. Like, I get my main sponsors from outside the sport, not within the sport. Like, and that basically means that I need to work. Like, that's why I'm doing a podcast. I coach some people, and that's how I make a living. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it full time. But it's quite a stressful period.
I think with the gravel, it's a little bit of a niche as well at the moment, isn't it? There's not that many professionals that do it. But I guess the way you need to make the money from gravel is there's no prize money, is there? So everyone has to ask for a decent amount of money, because you can't make any prize money from the races. So you've got to take that into account. And I guess they have to rely on the fact they've got a decent social media following, because the races aren't really that televised. So some of these people have probably got a decent social media following, and because they can't get prize money, because there's no prize money in the races, they know they have to ask for a decent amount from the sponsors. And they're quite experienced, aren't they? Because a lot of them used to be World Tour pros. So if they're on decent contracts at a World Tour level, they're not going to suddenly say, we'll do it for $5,000, because they know what kind of money they should be asking for. So they've got that experience. Whereas a lot of people in triathlon, they've come up from, they haven't come from other sports or that experience level, and they don't know what a decent amount is. And I think a lot of them are a bit shy, and they don't want to feel like they're taking the piss by asking for too much. And in fact, they're actually probably doing themselves over by not asking for enough, and then everyone suffers. I think that's part of the reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, fair enough. But anyway, that's like, is an extra factor of stress to the game. It lasts till, like, it's literally now till Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to, this is the time when everyone's trying to get their sponsors, because normally it's all like finalized around this kind of time, isn't it? From like January onwards, and then once you get to
Hmm.
January, it's actually quite hard to get sponsors. And you'd think that
Over,
you were, if you didn't know that that would be a good time, but normally they're already starting from then, and you've kind of missed the boat, haven't you? If it gets to January and you haven't got it, although you can still get some, but it's a lot
dude,
harder.
over the last literally like 4 weeks ago, and this is going to surprise you, I was even contemplating of fully quitting triathlon.
Really?
Yeah,
What would
because
you do all the time if you didn't do triathlon? Then? What would you do?
exactly, what would you do? I don't know. It just, I was busy with the Apple business. I was busy with that, and the other days I was literally just either moving or just not doing anything at all, just sitting and feeling like, I don't know. It's just waiting for better times or something. I don't know. I've never had it as well. It's just pretty crazy. You're just thinking like, oh,
Sad,
I'll go
mate.
out for a ride. You're just postponing things, postponing, and it just doesn't work. And then I had someone came up with like, um, it was with regards to like the Apple business, like an opportunity that we maybe could do is to do it like full time. So I was digging into that, and that also meant like full time stopping with triathlon. And then I was like looking into it pretty seriously, because I was thinking like, I do like triathlon. I am improving, but am I ever going to be the best in the world? Well, I don't think so. Am I going to win any races? I don't think so. Am I going to make a proper living? I don't think so. It's all this insecurity, and I don't know. Just, and also, of course, I wasn't mentally in a good state at then. So I was thinking like, fuck it. But yeah, in the end, I
I
didn't.
think you could win some big races. I think you could win some big races, but you need to train hard for it for a long period of time. Because in the past, I think you've done like 4 weeks or 6 weeks where you've trained really well, but you've never really given it a real long go, have you? I mean, in New
Dude,
Zealand that time
uh,
when we were in New Zealand before the race, you did
yeah,
a decent block of training and you improved shitloads, and then you did like 8.5 hours. And I think if you actually trained like that and did it for 18 months or a year, you would be going really, really well, because you've seen how much you improve over when you just do 6 weeks. I mean, in Font Romeu, you really only did like 3 weeks and then went and did Almere. But if you actually trained like that 3 weeks for
but
six
that's the
months,
thing.
you know,
My life is like Lionel Sanders, his training videos. There's always shit coming up, and I'm just thinking like, why have I always got shit? Because I'm not like that with work and all that. Like it always works out for me. But then with triathlon, there's always something coming in. It's either me getting like a flipping crash that I'm out for 2 months because I've got my knee flipped up, then getting corona, I'm out for like 3 months. Then this whole period, since literally since I've turned professional, I am I could be a reality soap. I could be a reality soap, Joe. It could be anything. But apart from that, Joe, let's go on to the next thing, because I'm wondering, how do you feel, mate?
I feel all right. I'm looking forward to getting the last race of the year done, Arizona, and then taking some time off and chilling out, and also doing a blood test like out here and seeing what my levels are, seeing if am I in the K hole, am I feeling good? Who knows? But you've managed to get in contact with BioStarks, haven't you? And they're going to be out here in Arizona, and they've said that they'll do us some blood tests. So actually, it'll be interesting to see how the body is feeling after like third Ironman in like 2 months.
I've got something for you, Jody. I've got something for you, mate, because you were saying 2 weeks ago that you didn't know whether you were in the K hole or not, and so I managed to reach out to a company, and we are what we eat, Joe. We are what we eat. So I've got a blood sports performance test from you from BioStarks, and this test is going to give you all the information regarding your key biomarkers like iron, magnesium, testosterone. So you won't even need to ask your missus whether your testosterone is flowing, Joe. And I hear you saying, how does this work? Because you're not a doctor. Jody, you'll just do a blood test. You can order it either on biostarks.com, but I arranged one for you in Arizona. I'm going to do one pre-Ironman for you. They'll do the blood drawing. It's really easy, not painful at all. You send it in, and then you get the results in the app, and it will tell you exactly what you're lacking, what it means, what you should eat to get up to a healthy level again. And I'm really, really curious to see what my own levels are after this 7-8 week off period. And Joe, if your blood levels come in good, if the testosterone is up high, you're going to book that romantic weekend away with Laura, aren't you?
I'm going to book that romantic weekend away, mate. If the testosterone's flowing high, then I will. I'll do another one 5 days after Arizona as well, or something like that. Once I do the race and travel back, and we'll see see if there is any, or how much of an effect doing an Ironman and transatlantic travel has on your blood levels, because I think that would be quite interesting, to see. And then if it does have an effect, I might do another one 3 weeks later, after having like the off season, taking it really easy, and seeing does an off season where you've taken it really easy and like taking some time off actually rejuvenate and have a positive impact on your blood. I think that will all be really interesting to see. And if the blood's looking good, that romantic holiday away is always waiting for you guys. So if you do your blood test, and you'll know whether or not it's a good time to go.
Now, if you're listening and you're curious about your current state of health, head over to biostars.com and order your blood test today with code TOM10. You get 10% off, because we always take care of our dogs, don't we? But yeah, I am pretty curious to see, first of all, what after 8 weeks being indoors and being depressed and hardly any training, what that's going to do. And also your results with doing a blood test pre-Ironman and post-Ironman, what kind of impact an Ironman has on your blood levels. We're going to talk about that probably next week if we get the results in, and otherwise the week after that. But that would be really curious to see, like, how fucked does an Ironman make you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. Also, I hope it tells you what your age is, because I know you can do that with some of them, can't you? It tells you like your inner age of your body. That would be interesting to see.
Do you think yours would say something like 54?
Well, I'd like to think that it would say I'm younger than what I actually am, but after doing all the Ironmans and travel and stuff like that, who knows? Like it could go either way. Also, I'm obviously doing Arizona this week. You're in the long road to New Zealand, aren't you? And it got me thinking, like, since we've been talking about New Zealand, about last time we were there. And one thing that made me laugh the other day was, can you remember the what's it called? Like the builder, the gypsy that crashed into the car. The last time we were in New Zealand, we were in Christchurch, and we were driving down this like, it was a pretty steep hill, wasn't it, with cars inside. It was not a very nice road to drive down, but it was okay if both people weren't in a hurry or didn't really care, because someone every so often was going to have to wait behind the cars on their side. And we came head to head with this like proper gypsy, weren't he? He was like in a wife beater. He looked a bit worn, didn't he? Tattoos on him. The exact type, like pissed off that he's going to work. And it was supposed to be him that stopped, because the cars were on his side, but he didn't want to stop. And Tom kind of like ended up stopping, like, and both of you were like pretty close together, weren't you? And it was like one of you would have to reverse, wouldn't they, for the other person to get through. Exactly. Well, he could have probably got through if he really wanted to, but he swore at us. And then there was me, Tom, and like a guy called Seb in the car. So we swore back at him, which was definitely a bad move. Like, I wouldn't recommend it, because then he proceeded in using the trailer that he was towing, which was like some iron or steel trailer, so it was solid as anything, as a weapon to damage the hire car, and made it so the way he went past the car, he turned in and used that to drag against the car and like took a part of the car off, didn't he? And we're like, oh shit, like, this is a hire car, like, we're going to be totally fucked when we hand this back. Like, there's like bumper hanging off the car, and we're like, oh no. And then he drove off, didn't he? Like, he stopped for a bit, and then but can you remember that? Like, what was your experience in that? Because you were the one that was driving.
Well, this guy was just a total Fruit Loop. You couldn't talk with him about anything. We called the police. The police didn't want to come. They said, come over to the office. We had to drive through the city with our bumper like falling off. That thing was literally just off the front, hanging like there. We went to a police office. We were there for like hours and hours. They didn't give us any clearance about the situation, who was right and who was wrong. They said they were going to handle it. I think we had the race in like 5 days from that. We did the race. We never got the police.
Quite well. The race The race was definitely over 5 days away. It was at least another 10 days. And we had to drop the car off before we flew to the race. Because I remember we were in Christchurch and we had
Oh,
to
right.
fly
That
to
was it.
Taupo. So, and I remember, my memory is we rang up the insurance company and said, like, what, you know, someone's like done it, like, what can we get another car? And they're like, you can like get it sorted, but then if it happens again, you'll have to pay another excess to get it sorted again. You know, whereas if you didn't, you'd only have to pay one excess. So we were like, oh, well, we might as well wait until we hand it in. So we drove for the next 10 days with a fucking bumper thing hanging off the car, but we had like tried to like dodge to like make it look all right. Because we were like, well, if we see him again or some other Fruit Loop does something, then will it be like, we might end up having to pay two big excesses. So let's just carry on for 10 days. And then we drove the car, handed it back, and like, nothing was said, was it? Until like ages later. And then months later, I got an email to me saying about the car, you know, something was wrong with the car when we handed it back. But it was like months later. It must have been like May. And this was all like once COVID had started and like, you know,
This was
all
the
that
end of
kind
Feb.
chaos.
The end of Feb.
Yeah. This was end of Feb when we took it in. And then like, 3 weeks later, COVID hit and pretty much it all died down. But I couldn't believe, what happened. It was crazy.
Do you think they're going to stop you at the airport when you fly in again? Sup, Jody?
They might stop me because can you remember I got a $400 fine for taking a bloody avocado into bloody New Zealand?
Oh,
While I was waiting for you.
Yeah. 400 fine. Why did you take your
$400.
avocado anyway?
Because I took it with me to have on the way, and then I thought, I'll have an avocado at the airport. I'll put it on like a salad or something, you know, make it like pimp it up a bit. And yeah, they were going to fine me, but they did say you've got a $400 fine. You can either pay it now or you can pay it when you leave the country. And I was like, well, I'll take my chances. I'll pay it when I leave the country, and then I never end up having to pay it. So I was like quite lucky, but still, $400 for an avocado. I was like, Jesus, like, you know, that's a bit like OTT, isn't it?
It is OTT.
Most expensive avocado, world's most expensive avocado.
I've been. So we're both doing Ironman New Zealand probably again. The race course, by the way, on Wanaka, they changed it back to the old loop. It's the old loop again, the big loop. But have you seen the prices of flight tickets, mate?
Yeah, I looked the other day. It is crazy. About roughly $2,000, isn't it? Starting from an economy ticket, which is
more,
nuts.
2.5 for me.
You'll have to get into touch with Qatar Airways, mate. They're sponsoring Ironman now. That'd be a good sponsor, wouldn't it? They could fly us out there first class, couldn't they?
Well, it made me think today. Why would I go to New Zealand to do a race, pay $3,000 for flights? I remember the food is absolutely crazy expensive, so that will be another $3,000 if you go with Joe Skipper. And
was
then
the food that bad?
It was not bad. It was really expensive.
What,
yes.
Worse than Kona? It wasn't worse than Kona, though, was it?
It was almost equal, maybe a bit less, but
was it that
still,
bad?
Dude, I remember we were doing like $150 shopping every 2 days. Yeah,
feel that Ferrari, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But
you're
on
Ferrari. You're not a Vauxhall.
Yeah, but you're on all the PTO bonuses and sub 7 surprise fees and all that.
PTO.
Tom Oostenrijk is just on employyourown.ass.com, you know.
Tom Oosterdek's a kit car, mate, that's going to be tuned up. You know, he's like a Ford GT40 that's getting built, you know, and then when it's going out for the test drive, you don't put like 88 petrol, do you? What you get in America, you want to put that premium 99 stuff and let the engine treat the engine well, you know.
Well, depending on sponsorships, I might go there. Now, I want to go to New Zealand, but it makes you wonder. Like, I remember back in 2020 when I went, flight tickets were something like £900.
Yeah, I remember getting business class for $2,500, and I looked the other day; it's like $7,000.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Nuts.
It went up like
huge.
3 times.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, I've got
I fucked my back flying there before. Like, I fell asleep in a real dodgy position twice, and like 2 long flights. Like, it doesn't sound like much. I know people are thinking he's a hypochondriac. That never happened. Honestly, I slept like this, like, you know, twisted. 2 14-hour flights, slept like a baby. Had one good run the first day I got there, and thought, I feel all right. Then it gradually got worse. About a week before the race, I could feel something. You know that sciatic pain? Have you ever had that sciatic pain where you put your foot down, you feel like shooting pain? So I was getting that, and I thought foam rolling it would ease it off. It's obviously a tight muscle or something like that. Little did I know, I was actually then making it a bit worse and worse. So the pain was probably getting worse. And then before the race, I was like, shit, I've been out here for a month and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to finish, like if I'm going to be able to start the bloody race, which would have been so like disappointing. Could you imagine you go all the way to New Zealand and then you can't even start the Ironman. You have to fly back 2 days later, not even done it.
That would
So I
be
was like, right, I'm going to need some
such a flipping
paracetamol.
waste.
Yeah, so I had to take paracetamols and ibuprofen just to get through it because I didn't know what the hell was wrong. I thought, oh, it's just something small. I'll sort it out when I get back. I thought there's no racing for like a while. Anyway, so I took some paracetamol and ibuprofen, managed to get through the race just about. And then it was like once I'd finished, it must have been like a mix of all the adrenaline of being in the moment and being in the race. The pain was excruciating and I had to lay down. I couldn't even go on the prize, stand up for the prize thing. I think they had to wheel me out in a wheelchair because the sciatic pain was so bad. And for when they got rid of me at the end, they had to wheel me off in a wheelchair. It wasn't because I was totally smashed from the race. It was because I couldn't even stand up. I was like a 90-year-old, Sciatic pain was that bad. Had that for 3 bloody months afterwards. Absolutely horrific. One of the worst injuries I've ever had in my life.
Only because you flew economy with the rest of the people.
Because I slept like in a bad position. Because I slept in like a terrible position. It scared me, mate, now doing like that.
Can you imagine how fit I'm gonna be the first time I'm gonna fly business class?
Mate, you're gonna be smashing it. You're gonna be top 3. You had a really good bike ride there when you were in Wanaka. You outbiked a lot of the pros, didn't you? I can remember that. Like that was like at that time, even probably to now, I'd say that was probably one of the best bike performances you've done in a like professional race. Bearing in mind you started with the age groupers, you didn't even start amongst the pros, did you?
Well, let's see if we can do it again then in Wanaka. I do. Yeah. That was. Yeah, that was a really good, and I also had like remember that my chain rings were like fully loose, like my front ones, and I had to stop for like 2.5 minutes because my chain was stuck between my chain rings. But
we need to check the results. We need to check the results because I'm not actually sure who got the fastest time out of me and you. It was
you
really
did,
close because I remember I had did I? But it was close because I had a shocking run.
Yeah, you still.
I ran like a 1:30, mate. I ran like 1:30. I think you might have outrun me, but I must have just had a bit of a buffer from the swim and a little bit of a buffer from the bike that I held out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. Could you imagine how motivated you'd have been though if you would have actually known that you were catching me? And like, imagine if someone had said at like 7 or 8 miles, we'd have started together. Joe's only 90 seconds up the road. You'd have been like, "Fuck, I'm gonna run him down," because you'd have been taking time out of me on the run, wouldn't you as well?
Yeah, but I wasn't like I should. My running should take another level. But to be honest, I think Wanaka is probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. Like if I remember back in that race, the Royce Peak that we've done, the hike, the swim, the cafes are awesome. I just really, really like that place. It's just really, really nice.
But I think if we go out there, we need to take a gravel bike with some road wheels. Because if we're both on gravel bikes, could you imagine riding up the Cadrona Pass? We haven't done that, but it's like gravelly. You could even try and ride up Roy's Pass, couldn't you? Some of them, because they're all like gravel ones. That would, and then if you're doing some road rides, you could just put the road wheels in. But you definitely want the road wheels because I remember that group in Christchurch that was like full on, like that fucking what they call it, Wednesday Worlds or something. It was like some bloody road race every weekend. I like that. That was right up my street.
But still, Joe, if you need to pay $3,000 for a flight ticket and then 2 bikes, it's also a hassle with the hire car, getting like 4 bikes in and all that. I remember that was a pain in the ass with your bike standalone. But anyway, Joe, I've got a date story, a date question, triathlon dating related question, and I'm curious what your opinion is.
All right, got in.
So a gram follower sent this one in. Is a gal, and she has got a requirement that a guy that she wants to date must be able to swim 100s under 140 per 100, 1 minute 40. That's not in a yard pool; it's a meter pool. Her friend,
out then. We'd be screwed.
We'd be screwed. We'd be single and ready to mingle. My friends say I'm being too picky, but I personally think 140 is quite lenient. Is it acceptable to have a time rule? I do give exceptions for people excel in other sports. Her ex did not make the swim time. However, she gave him a good age pass on his running time. So do you think she should get rid of the swim time rule?
No, I like it. I like it. Everyone has their something they look for in a partner, don't they? You know, some people
Mm-hmm.
might look for blue eyes. Some people might look for like brown hair. She's looking for a speedy swimmer. Her standards are very high though. Sub 140 is fucking quick, isn't it? You know, I mean, me and you would be ruled out of that. So, I mean, Techno, he's single, and he's only down to 150. So he's got a little bit more training to get to, and then potentially he might be in the running to go on a date with this girl. What do you think?
He could, but what about the 54-minute Ironman swimmer Mozzarella?
You'd be in it. You'd be in it, wouldn't you? Really? 140s. That's like a 65 probably minute Ironman split, I reckon. So you've got time to spare. You don't even have to use your biking and running prowess, do you? You're in it on the spot.
140s is like an hour and 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, about that, I reckon. Yeah.
I'll be 11 minutes up ahead.
Do you think her standards are high? Do you think her standards are high for the swim? Is she asking for too much? What do you think?
She is reaching out to the top tier age group level. I'd say it's a niche market. But
maybe because you're not allowed to be ageist anymore. She says that because it makes it really hard for older people, doesn't it, to contact her, you know?
Yeah, but I think
over like 55, 60.
I think it's good to be ambitious. Some people settle for less, you know? So, I mean, if you want to grow old with someone, you got to have the right standards that fit your requirements. And if you settle for less, you're going to be unhappy later on in your relationship.
Would you say, though, she's looking for a date, or is she looking for a training partner for someone's feet to swim on? Is there an ulterior motive in this? Is she looking for like someone's feet swimming because she's thinking fresh old sets are grim by myself? If I get someone who's a 140 swimmer, I can sit on their feet. Which is why she's got the other bit.
That would be a top professional mindset, that she's like pretending it's a date, but in the meanwhile, she's getting in some decent fresh old sessions in the pool. But it could be the best of both worlds.
Because remember, she's not saying you're definitely guaranteed to go on a date with me. You're just in the running. So she could be stringing you along. You're thinking, yeah, I'm going to get in there. She's pretty tidy. You know, I'll go and do some swims with her and stuff. And really, she's luring you in to, pace her along.
After like 3 blocks of hard swimming, 5 sets a week, you're thinking like, when is this date coming on?
Well, you're too knackered. You're too knackered because you've been towing her around all the time for swimming. You're too knackered to go on a date. So like, she doesn't have to worry about you pestering her because you're in the K-hole, mate. Your blood levels are low. Testosterone's gone through the floor. You can't do anything. Last thing you want to do is go on a date.
Exactly.
I would say be wary. If you're dating this girl, get some blood tests and see where your levels are at. You might not be able to take things to the next level if you train with her too much. She's a weapon.
Exactly. You want to be sure that you're at least, so if you're, for example, a 139 per 100 meter swimmer, you need to be sure you're on a good day when you're proving it to her. Because if you're off, then boom, you've lost your chance.
You lost. You're never getting that invite back again.
No, exactly. All right, mate, let's head over to Ironman Arizona. You've got a sneaky little race coming up this weekend, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. What did you want to know about it?
I want to know what you're going to do post-race.
Oh, I'm doing the beer mile post-race, 100%. So because we haven't done a podcast for a while, we haven't given an update. I've got a course in mind, which is going to be along the riverfront or whatever it is. I don't know if it's a canal. Whatever that water is, I'm going to mark out a 200-meter course where it's 200 meters up and 200 meters back. And my question to you, Tom, is I've got a question. I'm staying literally right above the Whole Foods. So I had a little gander yesterday, saw some alcohol, and I've got a choice. And the choices what I've got at the moment is 3 choices. Do I, first of all, extremely frowned upon? Sam Long said that he's going to do the beer mile, and I expect he'll take this tactic. Do you go for alcohol-free and take a time penalty? Personally, I think that's out of the question, because obviously if you go alcohol-free, that is going to incur one. Do I go for beverages have to be 5% as well on average? That is actual official beer mile rules. So do I go for something like an easy drink and 5% beer and go all in? Or I've seen some really nice Belgian beer, which is a Le Chouffe gift set, 4 different Le Chouffe beers, and you get the glass. Really nice beers. Downside is the weakest one of them is 8%, and the strongest is 10%. So it'd mean drinking 2 high strength beers,
Mm-hmm.
330 mils each, but they do taste good. And it would be the Belgian beer mile, or do I go for the easy drinking 5%ers and just go all in?
Well,
What do you reckon?
it depends on, does easy drinking for you mean you get it down quicker? Because in the end, that's what it is about.
Yeah.
So if you really
Yeah.
like the Belgian beers and you can down them quicker, even though they're stronger, you go for the Belgian beers. But in the end, it's all about how fast can you chuck them down, because the alcohol percentage doesn't really
I could
matter.
chuck
Because
the
the
other
alcohol's
ones
going to
down
kick
quicker.
in. What?
I could get the other one, the easy drinking ones, the ones that you could get in quicker. The Le Chouffe would be like more showboating. It would be like, yeah, they're stronger. I can't drink them as quick, but I'm going to rely on my running with fucked Ironman legs to do the business.
Why
It's
don't you
showboating.
just
It's like if you try and
why don't you rock up with
it
like
would be like if you're in football.
why don't you rock up with like 3 or 4
So
golden
be-
drags?
Golden Drags. They haven't got them in there, but I love the Golden Drag. I absolutely love that. That's a strong one. That's like 11%. That isn't it?
Yeah,
God,
12.
I'd be hammered after that. It's like drinking that's like drinking 2 bottles of wine for it. Jesus, like after an Ironman.
But what were you going to say about your football
that would
match?
be very tough. Well, I'd say like going showboating in that would be the equivalent as trying to do like a Maradona turn or something. You know, you overtake someone or trying to like nutmeg a defender if you're a striker, wouldn't it? You know, it's a bit of a showboat, isn't it? You don't need to do it, but it looks good.
Mm-hmm. True. But rocking up as a last season race with alcohol-free beers, that's a statement, mate. That's a statement.
The statement that you're determined, that your mindset is on another level. So that like I've finished my season. I'm on off season, and I'm still drinking alcohol-free beer. I'm going to be a weapon next year.
Yeah. But anyway,
that's saying that you take your off season. That's saying that you take your off season very seriously, and it is a structured off season.
But you're already structured. You're still on a calendar.
Yeah.
I've got a bullshit buster, Joe.
What's that?
I have got a bullshit buster. Someone sent a picture in to me last week of a guy going to a wedding with his wedding shoes, and on his wedding shoes he's got a Stride foot pod, so a running Stride foot pod.
I like that. He's looking at his power output. How much power does it require me to go on the dance floor and bust the moves? You know, do I log this as a tempo? Is it endurance? Like, you know, if he's doing 90 minutes of dancing on the dance floor, is that the same as a zone 2 long run? How much time sitting down in between like 10-minute dance sessions does he need? You know, he's got to take that into account. You know, it's all data, and it's very sly because he's probably got his watch on, sports watch, and he's recording all this. If he didn't have the Stride and he was relying on GPS, you might not be able to get GPS signal indoors, you know, because of the buildings. Stride does it by power, does it by movement of the feet. He's very sneakily recording that as data for his training peaks.
This must probably be a professional athlete. And also because, and this is a mistake that is often made, people are in a big training block. They go to a wedding into the evening. They dance like a lot. Next day, they want to smash a session and they feel fatigued. And they're thinking like, where is this coming from? They look on Training Peaks. They can't see where the fatigue is coming from. And then they miss the proper session they did on the dance floor.
Exactly. And if you're a proper athlete, you'd also, like, I bet if Christian went to the wedding, he would have the Stride on and he would have the glucose on, because when he's done his dancing on the dance floor, he needs to know, do I need another bit of that wedding cake? Are my sugars dropping? Will I get through the next bout with 2 songs? I heard they're playing Celine Dion next. That's a banger. Ronan Keaton's coming up. Am I feeling good for this? Can I mix it up? Like, it reminds him of times back in the summer when you were like leading him on the trails, mate, and put him in the Hurt Locker out in Font Romeu, and he's like, I remember this song. This is one where I had to dig in. I'm going to, you know, and it psyched him up for the dance floor, and he needs to make sure he's keeping on top of them blood sugars.
I would be triple digits on that watt power meter from Stride all day, all night on the dance floor. If they put Ronan Keaton and Celine Dion on, triple digits.
And we both had a stride power meter. We've tried it, haven't we? We both ended up getting rid of it. I think I got rid of mine first because it was always. I know every triathlete says this, but it was underestimating my pace and distance in my workouts, and I wasn't happy with the numbers it was telling me. And I was
What
moaning to you,
what
and
did
you
you,
carried
by
on
the
with it a
way,
bit.
what did you think of that run then I did last Monday? So 7 weeks of 20K a week, 5 minute K pace, and then one run where I did 10Ks and 5Ks at like 3:37K pace. I like boom.
I think you're back in the game, mate. Back in the game. The road
Were you
to, the road
surprised?
to
Were you
New
surprised?
Zealand on.
I was
No,
surprised.
I
I
thought you'd
was.
do. I thought you'd do under 340K pace because I, in the past, I think you've always underestimated how quick you'll do certain runs and stuff, and then you've done better. Like I remember when we got back from New Zealand, you did that 5K ages ago, and you were like 15:30 something, weren't you? Or 15:40 something like that, and you didn't
Mhm.
think that you were going to break like 17 or 16:30, did you? So I think you always worry. And I remember when Ryan Bolton gave you that 26K run, didn't he? Like sub 345K pace for
Yeah.
26K, and you were like shitting it. You put it off until like 9 o'clock at night or something, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then end up doing it, and then did it a lot. And you were actually like, actually, it wasn't that bad. Once you got into it, you were all right.
So
I
it's all
think you
about
just
the
need
mindset.
someone. If you had a training partner, well, I think your problem is because you don't have anyone to do it with you for a lot of the sessions. They seem a lot harder than what they are. Whereas you could do with having someone like a techno on the bike or someone
I
to run
could.
with,
I could.
and you would actually, yeah.
I've been thinking about putting a message out because now I'm over at like my parents. All my mates live in like Amsterdam or The Hague, so maybe I'll go back there, but maybe not because I'll. It's just a couple of months. I'm like probably going to Spain or anywhere anyway, maybe. But I've been thinking about putting a message in a newspaper because there's like a lot of people that are lonely. For example, older people, 60, 70, and that could be still fit, like just going out on the bike. And I've been thinking about doing a call if one of these old people just want to come over to my place twice a week. I'll give him lunch, I'll give him food. I'll give him some Celine Dion and Ron Keaton, and they'll pace me on the bike, just like techno. I think they'll love
Yeah,
it.
I think it would make a massive difference because part of the problem is for you as well is if you end up putting a session out like back because you're worrying about it and you're like, oh, this is going to be really hard, this is going to be really hard, and then you end up struggling to fit the other train in. But whereas if you had someone who you knew was turned up to your house at like whatever time, 10 o'clock, you're already committed into going, and then you don't even have to think about it. You just run at the pace that they're setting, and before you know it, you've done it, and then you're like, oh wow, that was easier than what
I
I thought.
know.
Because they always feel easier than what you think once you've done them, don't they? It's very rare that you actually do it, and you're like, God, I don't think I'm going to finish this, is it? You know, once you do it, you're normally like, oh, I thought it was going to be harder. And I
But
think that's because you build it up so much in your head that you think it's going to be a lot worse than what it actually is.
speaking about characters, right? Um, One of the things I got into triathlon years and years ago because I find it really, really hard to do stuff by myself, like really hard. And that's why I decided to do a triathlon because I had to pick up swimming. I couldn't do swimming, so I had to like go to the pool and do stuff by myself. And I still nowadays tend to find it hard to. I do it, but I still find it hard to go out there, and especially with like hard sessions, go out there and do it like by yourself. I think it's
Oh,
tough
yeah.
to do it solo,
It's real.
especially. But anyway,
Yeah.
Joe, we've also got an Instagram post of the week. Now,
So that is one of the
this
good sides about not doing a podcast for 2 weeks. We have longer to find the content, don't we?
we have. Now picture this. This is a guy. He's on the bike, and that around that bike is built like an airplane. So literally, while he's riding, he's putting out power, and with that power, he's what like the propellers are moving through the bike due to that bike because he's cycling. I know you need to see this.
Yeah, I've
But
seen
anyway,
it. So it's like an aeroplane that's powered by him, isn't it?
his bike, yeah. And I would say this is so handy because first of all, we could just go to New Zealand and just get our long ride in. No free grand, nothing. We'll just
Yeah.
spend it on Morton gels and that kind of stuff.
Bloody hell, could you imagine the amount of Morton gels you'd need to power yourself if you were to try and fly there? I mean, obviously you could stop at land on the way at different points, but could you imagine? I mean, how fast do you think that thing could go? Like, do you think you could get it up to a certain height and then use the thermals to keep you up there? Like, so potentially, could you fly to like, I don't know, the south of France or something Like, can you go like
Well,
30,
it
40 miles
depends.
an hour? You get it up to say 10,000 feet.
And what advantage would a chain gang in the air give us?
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, right? If I could do say 12-hour TT, 280 watts, let's say you could do a 12-hour TT at a decent power. Could we do like say I do 3 hours, you rest up for 3 hours in the back, just sitting down, then you take over for 3 hours. But all you would have to do is just ride hard enough to keep at a decent height, because then you can use the thermals to keep you up there. So you could ease off every so often, and you just like once you start dropping because you're out of a thermal, you just pick it up a little bit. Would it be potentially possible for me and you to cycle in a day from Northern Europe to or say from like England, Amsterdam area where you are, to the south of France, if we took it in turns, doing 2 or 3 hour stints each?
Well, of course, I think so.
Can we reach out to the guy and ask him if we can have a go, and how high can you go? Do we need to take gas masks up there because we're like lack of oxygen and stuff, at 10,000 feet?
Yeah.
Like, or, if we go
What
higher
what if
up to
he's
15,
like?
I would love to have a go on that.
What if he's like? I did 150 watts and I went 100 k's an hour.
I'd be like, mate, I want to have a go on that. I would love to have a go on that and see if I could like fly. I mean, imagine that you do your 3 hour ride instead of riding around the roads. Your 3 hour ride just flying in the sky. Like, I think that would be cool as anything. I want to have a go
That
on
would
this
be
thing
really cool.
and see where I
You
can
could
go.
literally just fly over to my place. I could have the apple pie ready. We'd have like a cake and like a coffee, and boom, you're off on your plane again. Gone.
Yeah, because in a straight line, I think that you're only about 140, 150. Well, when you were in The Hague, I think you were less than 100 miles away, weren't you? About 100 miles?
I know. Yeah.
Literally, you were just
Yeah.
across it. So potentially, I could do a long ride, and I could have flown. I could have like used that to cross the water to The Hague and then ride back the next day. I mean, that would be so cool, wouldn't it? We need to reach out to this guy and see if we can where's he based, and if we can have a go on it at some point. The only scary thing would be what happens if you get really high and you can't land it properly because you don't know what you're doing, and then you crash land.
Or what happens
Would
if
you
you
take a
like
parachute
going
on your back?
overseas? Dude, what happens if we're going overseas to New Zealand? We're not wearing the glucose monitor and we're flipping bonking.
Oh man, you'd be totally screwed, totally fucked. Like, that's it, game over. By the way, before we go, I've got a question for you. It's a training question that I've got. And would you say, when we've been out on training camps and stuff, do I drink my coffee pretty quick, or like, am I a slow drinker? If I get a flat white, what would you say?
Fast, very quick, drink it. Quick, like
Pretty quick. All right. So
yeah.
does it count as a brick session for me if I come in off the bike and then have a flat white before I go out for the run? Or is that 2 individual sessions? What's the rules? Like, what's the turnaround time? What's the turnaround time you need for it to be classed as a brick session?
I would say like 10 minutes.
Because when I do a ride sometimes with Techno and we do a bike and a run, he gets around my house and I'm like, all right, let's go. He's like, we're going already? Are you having a drink? I'm like, oh, go on in, I'll have a quick coffee. So I have a quick coffee and then I'll go out for the run. Does that count as a brick session, or is that 2 individual sessions?
Well, I think in the end, for you, it doesn't really matter. I mean, is that what Techno said to you? This doesn't count as a brick session, Joe? Or
No, he hasn't said. No, he hasn't said that. Like, he just says, "Are we having a drink before we go?" And I'm like, "Oh, go on, then. You've twisted me out. We'll have a quick coffee."
I mean, obviously, of course, all Techno can't handle the hours without drinks. His worn out body needs some fuel. But, obviously, it works for you because you always tend to run like most of the times sub 240 in an Ironman. So I'd say if you want to do a proper brick session, stop, get a coffee, then do the run.
Do you think it makes your tummy more robust because you're running with like after having like a flat white? So there's like a bit of milk, bit of coffee in there. You're getting used to the caffeine and stuff.
I would say if you want to train tummy problems,
a lot of triathletes say they've got
that's
gut problems, don't they?
I know. They just need to drink a triple espresso and a big sandwich with pulled pork before their tempo run.
But yeah, I went to the cafe. I was on a ride the other day, and Nathan Risby, you know him, don't you? Because he's been out with you. So,
Yeah,
can you remember when we did that, like when we paced Ross around, didn't we, for that 40K thing? So I did a ride. I was out
yeah.
with Phil, you know, the pensioner, 67 years old, and it was on Sunday, and it was like my last longer ride before I was heading out here. And they met me at my house. Phil comes. He's on his like road bike. He's on one of the giant road bikes, so he's got his race wheels on, everything. So he's like looking the part. I thought he's all right. Then Nathan rocks up, and he's on like an old kind of like gravel bike with road wheels in. And I said, "Oh mate, you're feeling confident because I'm on my TT bike." I said, "That's confident." And then we're riding out, and Nathan's in second wheel, and I can see that he's like finding it a bit hard behind my wheel. And I'm like, mate, take turns with Phil. So him and Phil are taking turns doing 10 minutes, like being in second and third place, because you get a bigger buffer, don't you, if you're in third place, don't you, than second.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to like an hour and a quarter in, something like that. And Nathan's like absolutely blowing. He's like, has anyone got a gel? Has anyone got a gel? So I had to give him 2 Mortons. He just smashed 2 straight away. I said, mate, we'll be at the cafe in 45 minutes. Just have them. That'll get you there. So he nails 2 gels. We get to the cafe. Me and Phil end up like dropping him probably 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away from the cafe. So we're like, oh, well, he knows where we're going. We'll see him there. And I start picking it up a bit. And Phil's like on my wheel. And I'm thinking, Jesus, this guy's like 67 years old. Either A, he's really fit for his age, or 2, he's about to have a heart attack at any minute. And I'm like egging him on. Come on, Phil,
Yeah.
don't let me get away. Don't let me get away. If I drop you, I ain't waiting for you. And he's like hanging in there. And then we get to the cafe. He's like with a bit of a burn up the last hill to get there. It's all good. We wait until Nathan gets there. Nathan's like, you having any food? I'm thinking, well, I'm trying to be good before the race. I don't want to have too much bad stuff. And anyway, Nathan's like bonking already. So he gets like this massive sandwich and stuff. Bearing in mind, the last bit from this place is, you know, that road where me and you did that effort, which takes like 35, 40 minutes. It's a little bit up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
down,
yeah.
a bit twisty. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
town literally just before that roundabout. So in about 3 minutes, we're going to be pushing the pace a bit more. So he has bloody massive coffee, big old sandwich. You know them sandwiches that you get at a cafe, which are like on like absolutely pumped up, aren't they? And a cake. And he's just had 2 Morton gels. And I'm like, mate, you're going to be, you ain't going to bonk on the way back. But you're going to be feeling that. And unfortunately, the sandwich mate took him down. And I think he was feeling the effects. Yeah, he didn't manage to hang on for that bit. But yeah, he hadn't been out for a while. And I think he was absolutely blowing on that.
But that's gonna make you feel really lightheaded if all of a sudden you eat like a long time nothing and then like shitloads. Then on the bike, gonna feel a bit dizzy at first before it starts to like settle
He
in.
was definitely feeling the fire. His missus said that he smashed a load of food when he got home as well. So I reckon he probably burned 2,000 calories on the ride and ate 4,000 calories.
Anyway, everyone, before we're heading off, if you're still with regards to like the Triathlon Mockery kit, cycling kit, running top, or tri suit, if you want to get some, send me a message. It's actually till like Monday. I'm setting everything in last bits in for Monday to watch the Castelli.
Yeah, let Tom
and then
know.
orders close. Let me know. And also, if you didn't hear anything from me, I've been off for like a while, and sometimes these messages like flip and disappear on the gram. So just shoot me a message. Anyway, Joe, it was good chatting to you. Make me proud on when is it? Saturday. Is the race being live streamed?
Yeah. The race is on Sunday,
All
mate,
right.
and yeah, it is live streamed. I think it will start about 2:30, 3:30 European time, and probably 1:30 or 2:30 UK time. So yeah, you'll be able to watch it, and yeah, been feeling pretty good. So fingers crossed to have a good one.
I'll be following you. Give the dog some support on the live chat, and yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you back next week. We're gonna be back next week, Joe. Promise me that.
Oh, just before we go quickly, yeah, definitely going to be back next week. And I just want to say the beer mile is definitely happening. It's probably going to be about 4 p.m. Time out here, day after the race. I'm going to set a route up next to the river, 200 meters out, 200 meters back, and you can do the beers. I'll tell Tom the details to post up, but it is going to be about 3 or 4 p.m. time. And then if anyone fancies it, we'll head out for some food, like head back to where you're staying, get a shower, get changed, and then we'll head out for some food on the Monday after the race. So just to let you know, because I've had a lot of messages from people asking about it. It's definitely going to happen.
All right. Nice one. See you, mate.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.